So we had seen the different VLSI design styles in the previous class. Okay, so let's have a quick recap of those. So we started with the full custom design style. Uh, okay, and we saw that this full custom design style is uh, approach which starts from the very beginning. It starts from the zero level, and it builds all of the things, okay, that is to be required for designing a chip right from the library. Okay, so it also builds the library, and then it pick up the components from there, and then it go for the designing of ICs. So in that sense, it is very labor intensive, time consuming, it's very costly affair also. But at the same time, since all the things are being done from scratch, so you get the highest performance chips uh, from this design style. Then we have this standard cell based design style where library is made available. So the library is already available here, we do not have to worry about library. Okay, so components are there in the library, we can pick up the components required, okay, in in our design, and we can construct our circuit, right? Again, there are various types of components for each of those, like gates. For example, we will have different types of NAND gates and gates. Some may be having two inputs, some may be having three input, four, five, six, seven, eight, like that. Okay, so depending on the requirement, we pick up the components and then connect them. So it's a bit faster. It it's a bit less time consuming as compared to that full custom design style. Okay, but still the cost is a bit high. So again, suitable for high volume productions where a large number of ICs are required to be manufactured. Okay, then this I is illustrated just one example of a layout of a simple inverter. Okay, it will become more evident in the coming classes. And then we pick up the components and we arrange them in rows, horizontal rows like this, and the space between these rows are used for interconnections or the wires. Okay, and on the periphery we have the different IO pins sitting down here. Okay, then this is one mask layout. So here are the memory banks. Okay, and this body is the actually those horizontal rows of standard cells and routing. Okay, and these are the pins on the periphery. Okay, okay, so we had to start. Let's see what is a gate array design approach. Okay, okay, so this is also a popular VLSI design style, gate array design. Okay, uh, so like ultimately we have to have transistors at the very bottom level. Okay, so we need transistors. All the circuits will be in terms of transistors. Okay, so we need a large number of transistors, and we connect them and we connect them to form proper circuits, proper functioning circuits. Okay, so what does this gate array design approach says that, okay, we will provide you only transistors. Okay, so these are the I can say prefabricated transistors. Okay, these are prefabricated transistors which will be made available to the designer. Okay, and the only thing is to connect these transistors according to our design. Okay, so these are independent transistors, unconnected transistors, or uncommitted transistors. These are uncommitted transistors, okay, which are not being connected to any other transistor, so they are independent. Okay, an array of transistors is made here, is made available to you. Okay, and the designer's task is to uh, form a metal layer like this, okay, which will be according to his design. And with the help of this metal linings, custom marks will be made. Okay, and with the help of those masks, these metal linings will be used for joining the transistors here. Look at here, the transistors are being covered by these metal layers. Okay, and this metal layer is according to the designer's circuit. Okay, the circuit will decide what kind of metal layer is required, and we can connect those transistors with the help of these metal layers. Some transistors will be connected in some fashion. Okay, and this will be according to the specific design, and then the circuit will be formed like this. Okay, so this is the funda here, that you have uncommitted transistors already available. Okay, and the task is to form metal layer lining structure, and with the help of some custom made mask, we superimpose this metal lining layer on the top of those uncommitted transistors, and this will connect the transistors in a desired way, and you will get a circuit which is functioning properly. Okay, so it is like this in gate array design. So while user programming is central to the design implementation of FPGA, in FPGA we are more focused about programming. Okay, but here in gate array design, okay, metal mask design and processing is used for gate array. Okay. Metal mask design and processing. Okay, in terms of fast prototyping, gate array ranks second after the FPGA with the typical turnaround time of a few days. Okay, it is quite fast in terms of giving a prototype circuit. Okay, as compared to those previous two approaches. Okay, but still, FPGA is the fastest one. If you want to have a model which is working, if you want to develop a prototype, and you want it in a very short turnaround time, okay, then FPGA is best because it takes far less time. But still, if you have some days in your hand, you can go with gate array design approach. Okay, a few days of typical turnaround time. All right, so this is the concept here. So these uncommitted, so like it's a two-step manufacturing process. The first phase, which is based on generic standard masks, results in an array of uncommitted transistors on each gate array chip. Okay, so these are the uncommitted transistors. Okay, uh, which we will get on these wafers. Okay, with the help of some standard mask, this geometry is transferred on these wafers. Okay, and this structure is again transferred on the top of these wafers. Okay, with the help of another set of masks. Then these uncommitted chips can be stored for later customization. Okay, which is completed by defining the metal interconnects between them. Okay, so this is how it's done in the case of gate array design. Okay, then this shows a corner of a gate array chip, one corner of a gate array chip, and it contains many elements. Okay, but in the body, in the main body, okay, you will find an array of uncommitted transistors here in the main body. Okay, here, so these all structures are actually uncommitted transistors which are not being used for any circuit, which are independent standing transistors. Okay, so array of NMOS and PMOS transistors. In addition, we need some auxiliary elements also for completing the system design. We will have bonding pads on its left and bottom edges. So these are the bonding pads. Okay, again will be used for pins which will be entering in and going out. For the signals. Then diodes for I/O protection. So these are the I/O protection diodes here. NMOS transistors and PMOS transistors for chip output drive circuits. So they are big NMOS and big PMOS transistors, which are also available here for acting as a driver circuit, so that it can handle more power, underpass wire segments, and power and ground buses. And these are some of the extra things. Okay, so the main focus is the gate array chip. Okay, if you look from the top, it will look like this, similar to this. So here these are arrays or array lines of NFET, NFETs and PFETs, that is NMOS transistors and PMOS transistors. Then we this is the ground lane, this is the power lane. Okay, here are some gates and underpasses. So these are the things here. Okay, and we will get to know more about this in the coming time. Okay. So the idea here is to give you some idea, some insights, so that you can actually visualize that how a chip would look like if we look at a chip from top of it. How does it look like? Okay. So basically, the thing is that we have the logical things in the body part. Okay, and the extra things, the pins and those things on the periphery of the chip. Okay. Okay, then we have one more type of gate array. One particular subclass of gate array is known as sea of gates. Okay. Sea of gates, as the name suggests, it will contain a huge number of gates. It will contain only transistors, nothing else. Okay. Here, the entire chip surface is covered with uncommitted NMOS and PMOS transistors. The entire chip surface covered with uncommitted NMOS and PMOS transistors. The entire surface is covered with only transistors, nothing else. Okay. As in the gate array case, neighboring transistors can be customized using a metal mask to form basic logic gates. Okay. So it contains only transistors, and these transistors are uh, also used for interconnecting other transistors. Okay. So there is a slight difference between gate array and this particular type of gate array called as sea of gates. So let us see what is the difference between these two types. So this is the normal gate array chip, and this is a sea of gates. Okay, this is sea of gate, and this is gate array. So it's a comparison between channeled. It's called a channeled. Okay, channeled gate array versus channelless or sea of gates design. Okay, why it is called a channel? Because we have, look at here, there are spaces, white spaces, okay, present here, which can be used for the routing or the interconnections. Okay, but these channels or spaces are not available here. Here the entire surface is covered with NMOS and PMOS transistors. So that is why it is also called as channel less. Okay, channel less gate array or sea of gates. So because space is provided here for routing, so routing problem is simpler in this case. But here it's flexible, okay, and the routing is achieved with the help of this over the cell routing. The routing has to be done, okay, but it is not present on the chip. It is over the cell, present over the cell. Okay, and just for information, we have metal lines, okay, and we may have more than one metal layers on the chip. For example, if I'm giving you the side view, okay, if this is the chip, then let's say inverter. This is no, not like this. Let me. So if this is the chip, let me draw it like this. Let's say this is n plus, this is n plus, so this is gate. Okay. Now on the top of it, we may have several metal layers. Okay. Uh, let's say this is one metal layer. Then we can have one more metal layer. These blue color lines are metal layers, and we can have one more metal layer here. We can have one more metal layers, and all of these metal layers are used for some sort of connection between the components which are present inside the chip. And the chip will contain huge number of components. We know these things, okay. So not it's not sufficient to have just one metal layer, okay. This blue colored, these are metal layers, okay. So we may have more than, generally we have more than one, two, three, four, five, six, like that, okay. And as we go up, the thickness of these metal lines become more, okay. So at the downside we have narrow metal lines, and then a bit thicker, and the thickest one will be present at the top. And all of these layers are used for connecting the transistors or the components which is present here, on the chip, okay. So over the cell routing, okay, and higher packing density, since channel is absent here, only transistors are present, so it gives us a higher packing density. It's RAM compatible and supports variable height cells and macro cells, okay. So these are some of the comparison which is in between sea of gates and the normal gate array. Okay. The next one is FPGA based design. Okay, so this is FPGA. FPGA stands for Field Programmable Gate Array. Okay, so the name specifies that it is programmable in nature. Okay, and it can be programmed in the field. Means it can be programmed anywhere. Okay, it doesn't have to pick up the IC and bring it uh, to the company to get it programmed. No, it can be programmed anywhere. Okay, at any location. So that's why it's called as field programmable gate array. Okay, and so what is here is that we are the designer will be given with prefabricated FPGA chips. Okay. So ready-made fabricated FPGA chips containing thousands or even more of logic gates with the programmable interconnects are available to users. Okay. So fabricated already FPGA boards are made available to the users, okay, for their custom hardware programming to realize desired functionality. Okay. So you will be made with the FPGA boards, It's like Arduino boards. You might have heard about Arduino board. So what is there in this case? Arduino board is made available to you. You just do the programming and test your circuit on this Arduino board. So the hardware is available to you. You just have to perform the programming and simulation, and then you need to test that circuit on this board. Similarly, for VLSI part, where the circuit is very big, the circuit is complex, you'll have to perform the program. You'll have to write a code for that. Okay, using uh, Verilog or VHDL. Okay, and then you perform the simulation. You verify the circuit, and then after getting satisfied that it is working properly on simulation platform, you do it or you dump it on the FPGA hardware, and you test it whether it's working on the hardware or not. Okay, so in this sense, it is a very fast means of prototyping. This design style provides a means for fast prototyping and also for cost effective chip design, especially for low volume applications. Since it involves programming part and simulation and then testing on the already available FPGA board, so the process is very fast. Okay, in a matter of few hours, you can test your design on the FPGA board. Okay, right. But the thing is that since FPGA board has to be made available, it costs something. Okay, so but if you want to manufacture, if you have some application which require less number of less number of chips to be fabricated, to be designed, then we can go for this FPGA sort of design style. Okay, because the FPGA board costs. Okay, so when the requirement is less number, then we can opt for this. Otherwise, for prototyping purpose, it's suited best. Okay. But when the demand is high, when you want to have lakhs of or millions of your design, then it is not a wise decision to go with FPGA, because then in that case it will become costly. Okay, so in that case, you can go with standard cell-based design or full custom. Okay, so our typical programmable gate array chip consists of I/O buffers, an array of configurable logic block (CLBs), okay, and programmable interconnect. So this is the architecture of a simple FPGA. Okay, so look at here. So we have these, and these are CLBs. Okay, CLBs, configurable logic block. So these are the blocks which can perform logical function. Okay, logical functions like and, or, nor, the logical gates. Okay, it will contain some logical gates. Okay, and LUT, so which can perform any type of logical function according to the design, according to your Boolean expression. Okay, so it will be having some small capacity. Okay, like it may contain two number of LUTs, and each LUT can perform, let's say, a logic function having four inputs. Okay, so if the circuit is big, then in that case you will need more number of CLBs. Okay, so these are the blocks which is actually responsible for the functioning part, the logical functioning part. So your circuit or your Boolean expressions will be mapped onto these CLBs. Okay, but when you are using multiple CLBs, they are located apart from each other. You need to connect them in a proper fashion. So you should have some sort of routing facility. So we have vertical routing channel here, and we have these horizontal routing channel. So these are horizontal wires and these are vertical wires, and these are programmable in nature because the connections are dynamic. for each new design, the connection would be different. So it means that the same routing channels will be used in a different set of connections. So for providing that capacity, that capability, they need to be programmable in nature. So that's why it's programmable interconnect structures. And again, on the periphery, we have IO block, okay, which are used for providing input and output signals. Okay, so this is a simple structure of FPGA. Then look at here. This is again the internal structure of a CLB intern, configurable logic blocks. How does it look like from inside? So, like I told that one CLB will be responsible for performing some sort of logic function according to your circuit. Okay. So inside a CLB, we will be having look. This is four input LUT. This is four input LUT. LUT is lookup table. Look up table. If it is a four input LUT, it means that it can implement any Boolean equation having four input signals and one output. So any kind of logic function which is having four inputs and one output can be implemented on this four input LUT. Okay, there's one more four input LUT here. Okay. And we have some multiplexers, and we have a clock facility here, and we have some D flip flops here, and some other few components. Okay. And these are connected in a proper fashion so that you can avail, you can perform your desired functionality. So each CLB contains two independent four input combinational function generators, the same LUT, okay, a clock signal, and user programmable multiplexers, and two flip flops. Okay, this is inside one CLB. Okay, and we had uh, many CLBs like this. We just saw it in the previous slide. Okay, and these were the routings. Okay, so this is one CLB, okay, which contains like this thing. For example, Xilinx. Okay, Xilinx is a company which is working in FPGA sector. Xilinx XC4000 family of FPGAs. Okay, the size of the CLB array can range from 8 cross 8 to 32 cross 32. Okay, it can have, it's a family of FPGAs. Okay, just an example, it's an old family that is given in the book. Okay, which may contain around anywhere between 64 number of CLBs to 1024 number of CLBs. Okay, where the latter example has an approximate gate count of 25,000. Yeah, so it can have a gate of up to 25,000. Now we are having more advanced FPGA families available from Xilinx and other companies, so which contain again lakhs of gates. Okay, so our typical FPGA chips can support system clock frequencies between 50 and 100 megahertz. Okay, the largest again we are having more advanced, so we can go with higher clock frequency rate. Okay, but the biggest advantage of FPGA based design is very short turnaround time. It just takes a matter of few hours to design your circuit and get it verified on the hardware. Okay, right. The typical price of FPGA chips is usually higher than other alternatives such as gate array or standard cells of the same design. But for small volume production of ASIC chips, and for fast prototyping, FPGA offers a very valuable option. Okay. For example, in our labs, we have basis 3 boards. We have Nexus, and we have Zinc boards, Zinc FPGA boards available in our labs. And student perform the experiments on these. They design the circuit and perform and test it on these boards. Okay. Okay. So we saw that it contains uh, routings or programmable connections. For example, uh, look at here. So this is a vertical routing. This is a horizontal wire, a horizontal line. Okay, horizontal channel. Now at the junction, interconnection of each vertical and horizontal wires, we are having this kind of structure. Okay, which makes it programmable. So suppose I want to connect this one with this one. Okay, so in this case, we need to activate or we need to connect. We can connect this one with this one with the help of this line. Okay, so each of these lines contain transistors in in them. Okay, each of these paths contain transistors present inside them, and the path which is required, okay, that transistor in that path is switched on and other transistors are switched off. So this path transistor is switched on and it will connect this routing channel to this routing channel part. Okay, suppose I want to connect this one with this one, not this one, not this one. In that case, the transistor or the pass transistor, okay, will be switched on for this path. Okay, and all others will be off. This one will be off, this one will be off, this one will be off. Okay. So it will connect like this. Okay, so there are a total of 6 pass transistors per switch matrix interconnect point. It's called a switch matrix interconnect point. Okay, so look at here. We have these. We already saw that there are CLBs. Okay, configurable logic blocks. So these square blocks are CLBs. Okay, and these are the switch matrices. Okay, okay, these are the switch matrix interconnects, which are connecting these ones with these ones or with these ones or with these ones according to the circuit, according to the program. Okay, now this switch matrix may be performing different, completely different programming connections as compared to this switch matrix or this switch matrix. Okay, so each of them will be programmed differently, right? And this is all done by the tool. Okay, you design a circuit, you write a code for a circuit, and then you go for the synthesis part. You synthesize it. There's an option called synthesis, and then the tool takes care of this. How the programming of these switch matrices are will be done. How many CLBs should be used in your circuit, and how to connect them. All these things are being taken care by the tool itself. So we have a tool from the Xilinx itself. It's called Xilinx Vivado, okay, which can be used for FPGA, prototyping. So this is also available in our labs, okay. And the web version of Vivado is again available free. The web version is free to download. Okay, anyone can download and start learning the FPGA designs. Okay, again, it will require a knowledge of SDLs like Verilog or VHDL. Okay, these are the languages which will be required. Okay, and these are like simple to learn. If you know about any of the programming languages, you know about C or Java, anything. So you have, if you have some experience with the any programming language, then you can easily learn these languages. It's not a big deal, and you can uh, start writing code for the circuits. Okay, right. So this is the case. Now let us see at last the comparison between different design styles. So we have full custom, we have standard cell based design, we have gate array and FPGA. And area wise, we know that full custom will take the smallest area because it is being done right from the very zero mark point. So all the things are being done according to the specification. But in standard cell based design, because library is already there, so we cannot modify the components present in the library. We have to pick up those components and use it. So it will give us a small to moderate area design. Gate array will again give you moderate, and FPGA will take large area as compared to full custom, okay, for a given circuit. Performance wise, again, full custom will be high, highest performance chips. Again, high to moderate for standard cell based, moderate for gate array, and FPGA chips will be low performing chips. Okay. Application layers, all layers are used, and in gate array we use metal layers, and in FPGA no fabrication is required because already the chip is there to test, so none. And then for design time, it is very high in the case of full custom, high to moderate for standard cell based design, moderate for gate array, and it is the lowest for FPGA based design. Okay. Then, if we talk about the different properties in terms of cell, what is a cell? Cell is a small logic unit. You can also call a small gate as a cell. One logic unit or one small gate is one cell. Okay. The size of these cells can be variable in full custom. But in standard cell based design, it's fixed because the library is there. The size is fixed for each of those gates. We cannot change those sizes. It's again fixed in gate array because the transistors are again prefabricated. In FPGA also it is prefabricated. It is also fixed. In PLD it's also fixed. Cell type is again variable in full custom. In full custom we have the maximum flexibility, but again it is the most costly also. It's variable in standard cell based. We have varieties of components available in the library of standard cell based design. In gate array, it's fixed. In FPGA, it is programmable. All the things is about programming. Okay. Placement is again variable. In standard cell based design, it is placed in row. We have seen this. In gate array, it is again fixed, and in FPGA, it is again fixed. Okay. In PLD, it's fixed. Interconnections are variable in full custom. In standard cell based design, it's variable. Okay. Gate array variable. In FPGA, it's again programmed. In PLD, it is again programmable. Okay. So these are some comparison between different design styles, and depending on the requirement, a designer can pick up any design style for designing his or her chip. Okay. So I will stop here. Okay, for today's class, and then we will move further from here. Okay. So we had completed the different design styles. We had seen what are the approaches, what is the different difference in terms of their approach, and which particular design style is suitable for what kind of application. So certain applications may favor full custom, certain applications will favor standard cell based design, certain applications will favor FPGA or gate array design. Depends on the application actually. Okay, so it's very important to specify. It's very important to decide what kind of application it is going to be, and then to relate it to the particular design style. Okay, this design style can be used for uh, this manufacturing of chip because this will be used for this kind of application. So it has to be decided by the designer, okay, what kind of approach it should be he should be taking, and then he adopt that approach and goes for the designing and fabrication of those chips. So these are done by the companies, okay, and there are various stages in this VLSI design itself, and there are companies which are companies like Xilinx and Altera, which are dealing with FPGA only, okay, and there are companies which are dealing with only full custom. So each of these in itself is huge, okay. Anyways, so these are some of the design styles which are popular in VLSI designing of the chips. And any doubts, students? If you have any doubts, anything, you can ask. You can ask your doubts. I hope you are listening here, students. Okay, you give your attendance in the chat box. Write your roll number and name, and post it in the chat box for your attendance. Today I will upload all the lectures that I have taken till now on YouTube. Okay. Just give your attendance in the chat box, and you can ask your doubts.